Welcome to another edition of Seekers of the Supernatural. I'm your moderator, Tony Spera, along, of course, with host Ed and Lorraine Warren. And also we have a special guest tonight, Frank Chiafari. You may recall from past shows, even the beginning of this show, when you hear the song Spirits on the Hill, it was written, produced, and sung by Frank. And Frank is also working on another theme song for the show and others. But tonight, Frank will talk about his experiences in England and Scotland, but tonight we will talk mainly about ghosts, hauntings, and haunted locations. What better place to start than with Lorraine, who went on a case or got a communication about a case that she'd like to read to us. Lorraine, what is this all about?
Well, this is quite ironic, Tony. When we got home from Japan, our mail was waiting for us at the post office in 2 big boxes. So I had a box on one side of the table in our breakfast nook, and Ed was on the other side.
I got all the bills.
No, it was his job to separate junk mail. So I opened a contract for one of our schools from our agent, and it was University of Wisconsin at Green Bay. And I looked at the postmark on it. Then I opened this letter. Postmark exactly the same date. And 40 minutes from that school.
In Wisconsin.
In Wisconsin. What is the chances?
What's it say?
All right. It has to do with what this family is writing about, has to do with phenomena that has been happening over a period of 13 years. She said she attempted to email us, but for some reason it would not go through. I need your help. I know that you are far away. I don't expect you to come here. However, I wonder if I might implore you to give me your input and advice on a matter most urgent to us. I don't know where to begin, so I will give you a somewhat Reader's Digest version of the past 13 years. The problems began when she married a man who had 2 young sons. They were around 2 and 3 years old, and she had 2 daughters who were 5 and 15. Soon after they were married and began living together, they moved in to an old home that had been rented by his ex-wife. Their 15-year-old daughter seemed to be the law of attraction in this home. Her behavior was becoming so hateful that she moved out and moved in with her grandparents. She then moved back into her room, and as soon as she moved back, after living away from the house, all hell broke loose again. The mother had gone back to college and would be doing a great deal of work, homework, and things like that in the evening. One particular evening, the sound of a grand piano being slammed against the wall scared me so badly that I called the police, as well as calling my husband home from work early.
Now, there was no grand piano.
But she heard the sound of the keys, hitting a wall.
As though a piano crashed against the wall.
Wow.
Now, we've heard similar sounds. It's very, very frightening.
Okay, now the police came. The room was searched and was no trace of anything. It appeared as if it hadn't happened. But a neighbor living in a duplex right next door to them heard it in her house. This is another very frightening incident. The 2 toddler boys, these were his boys, were asleep in one particular evening, one in a crib, one in a toddler bed. All of a sudden, we heard a large crash like an explosion and glass breaking. Needless to say, making my heart do several jumps. A friend, she works with a friend when they're doing homework. They're both in the same class. This was all explained to me. Ran up to the 2nd floor where it seemed to be coming from. We flung open the doors, and what lay before me was like nothing I had ever seen before. The dusk was so thick You had to squint your eyes to see. The two boys lie in bed, eyes open, not moving. All the plaster from the old lath walls was on the carpeted floor, like the walls had exploded. The windows had blown out. Glass lay on the roof of the porch and even on out to the street. That street was 100 feet away.
I just wanted to explain one thing, that this is a typical poltergeist phenomena. Now remember, two small children are in the middle of this room. The plaster in the walls actually comes and explodes. The glass flies out over 100 feet away and lands out onto the road. But the children are not hurt. Could it be any more unnatural? Go ahead.
Now, there was no plaster left on any of the walls except in the closet. Next, the Catholic Church became involved. A Father James Crockett of St. Mary's eventually performed an exorcism in the house. In the process, the door to the staircase blew off its hinges. We moved out that month. He said he doubted anything would help.
Now stop to think about this. The door flew off the hinges.
I have more detail in another letter.
We've seen homes where this has happened. People can't even imagine something like this. In one house, an old Revolutionary War home, a woman similar to this lady heard an explosion. It was in the evening. Her baby was up in that room. They ran up there. The door had just blown open, tore itself off the hinges. There was a radiator there. It was still vibrating when she walked in, but the baby wasn't hurt.
Now,
Very similar to this.
Now, what they decided to do, this was a very old house, and in one of the downstairs room, there was one of those old hide-a-beds. They used to go right up in the walls, Tony.
Right.
What they decided to do was to put intercom into all of these other rooms and then have the speaker in this bedroom that they made into a bedroom downstairs. They would listen to conversations with people.
Yeah, they'd actually hear what they described as people mumbling. Well, that's magic whispering. That's another phenomenon that occurs in these homes. You can't really distinguish the words, but it's as though a bunch of people were just talking.
Like in
and
another
mumbling.
room or something? Like,
Yes,
like
in
a
another
muffled
room.
sound?
Right.
Like a muffled sound. Now, when the Catholic priest came in here, this letter is the first letter I got, what I'm reading to you. She wrote a more in-depth with all the explanations. When she called this priest, this Catholic priest, to come, it had to go through all the channels.
Of course.
But then when this incident happened with the boys, the little boys, one thing that was really strange was all of this plaster that came off the walls wound up in a perfect circle in the middle of the room. The outer perimeters of the room, which were also carpeted, nothing was wrong there. And the toy box of the children's, the toy box, no dust or anything was on it. Now that is really
That's kind of
bizarre.
weird.
From
Well,
beginning to end,
How do you
unnatural.
explain that? What's that all about? Why is that happening?
Why
intelligence.
does anything happen in a house like that? Why does a plaster blow off? You're in a haunted house. These kinds of phenomena occur all the time.
No, but I think
This is
what I
demonic.
mean is...
Oh, the
is-
intelligence
No,
behind
what I
it,
mean
though.
is, why are they making things in a perfect circle? To prove to you that they did something
Think
supernatural?
about the circles in England that they find in these
the crop
wheat
circles
fields.
and everything,
I
Tony.
mean, they're perfect.
Are they doing that, though, to show you that it's something from beyond?
Oh, definitely.
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
Oh, yeah.
These are not natural acts that we're talking about. And as we get into this case, it gets more astounding.
Now, when this happened to the boys, the church acted then immediately. So another priest came in with him. The exorcism rites in this house were said in Latin. Now,
My congratulations to that priest and his church, because usually the church moves very slowly. In this case, they move very swiftly,
Yeah.
thank God.
They did. Now, what had happened was her and the children stayed downstairs, and the priest were upstairs. She could hear all of this going on. She was standing in the kitchen where this doorway goes up to that the older daughter's bedroom. The door opened with a force and threw her to the floor. So she stood up, she moved over out of the way so as not to frighten the children. That is the same door that flew right off the hinges.
Now you can see you've got somebody being hurt physically. This goes beyond human spirits. Now we're going into the area of demonology. This shows us that we're dealing with evil spirits in this house. Something that will hurt, even kill.
Okay, now the priest tell her that nothing is really going to stop what's going on in that house. They suggest in this case that they bulldoze this house. That was not a good thing to do. That was not a smart thing to do.
Once you destroy a house like that, where do the spirits go? They follow you. You become a haunted person. And you'll see what happened to this family when they left there and moved into a brand new house.
Okay, now what happens here? They do bulldoze the house.
They did?
They did.
Yes, they did.
And they sold it to a funeral parlor, the land across the street.
For a parking lot.
For a parking lot.
Funeral parlor.
The funeral parlor across the street.
Very appropriate.
They for a funeral home. All right. Now, they lived in other places in the meantime, but they didn't buy another home. They bought a large piece of land in another town, away from this town, and it was right on a lake. It's very beautiful. They describe it as very beautiful. And then the lot next to them was an open acre, so they decided just to add that to their property. All right, they had this very large home built. Off it was like an extension, but it was part of the original building, that they made into a great big family room. It had a big stone fireplace, the whole bit. All right, little things were now still continuing, although the husband had made a comment where he had said, as we built, my husband was reassuring in the sense that he would say that there would be nothing that would taunt this house. No one else had ever lived here. How I wish that had been true. They began already experiencing strange phenomena. Their oldest daughter, who was the catalyst in the beginning, was the one most affected personality-wise. She was probably the most vulnerable of all members of the family. In spite of all of this, the other family members remained close to their faith, remained stable, went on with their lives, but she got into all sorts of problems. She's now, at this point, 26. She's older than that now. She had a 1.5-year-old son born out of wedlock. When she moved back home, she had changed her behavior considerably, became a recluse in her room. Thinking she might be mentally ill, we were not associating it at all with things that occurred.
That's one of the first signs we look for when we go into a home. If somebody isolates themselves from the rest of the family, this means that that person could be under what we call oppression, something similar to an invisible being alongside of you, whispering negative thoughts to you. Don't go near those people. They don't love you. They want you out of this house. Arguments start. These spirits feed on this type of thing, animosity, hatred.
Now, what had they did everything for this girl and her baby.
Right.
The mother took care of the child. They sent this girl. She wanted to go to a police academy. She wanted to become a police officer. They tried everything. They tried everything with her, only to find out that it was fruitless. She planned on paper a plot to kill her own mother. She began by attempting to alienate each member of the family against the other. We see this constantly in homes, Tony.
Divide and conquer.
She embezzled $10,000 after asking if she could work part-time in her parents' business that they had. She embezzled $10,000 from them. She became obsessed with murders, orderly placing newspaper clippings together in a folder as this plot to kill her own mother. Excuse me. It became Christmas now, close to the Christmas season. In the middle of the night, with her then 2.5-year-old son, she moved out, lost total contact with the family. They didn't even know how she was supporting herself or anything, but of course she had that money that they weren't aware of. At that time, they didn't really know that. Yes. I mean, how far can that go?
That lasted us about 2 weeks.
Right. Couple of weeks.
Eat up most of it.
Right.
That's right. Yes, the two of you could do that. Now, at Christmas time, they would leave the house. The family would leave the house. The house has a security system. They would come back home. All the doors would be open. The music would be playing.
But the alarm didn't go off?
The heat would be turned up so high.
This is the new house.
This is the
Already-
brand new home.
We've got what we call infestation in the house.
The
Did the alarm go off?
Nothing went off. The Christmas lights, every Christmas light in the whole house and outside would all be on. But none of the switches would be in on position. None of them. Not one switch would be in an on position. The priest who became involved had a nervous breakdown. The priest who witnessed the doors flying off the hinges, more than one.
See, a lot of priests, they mean well, a lot of exorcists mean well, but they don't understand the consequences of what they're doing. When they go in these homes, they take on the responsibility. These spirits follow them home. Now you're talking about haunted people here now, not a haunted house. Haunted people. No matter where this family went, the same thing would have happened. Now this priest is trying to exorcise what's in that home. He finds out that he runs up against a stone wall here.
Now, she calls this another small thing that happened, Tony. They had called the police again because of the fact of some of the things that were happening, and why wasn't the security system going off? The police themselves witnessed before the police arrived for yet another spook. An old white stool, which I still own today, was turned upside down with a statue of Jesus inside of it, as if in a cage. I found it that way in the upper hallway of, again, this daughter's, right outside of this daughter's bedroom. They would feel gusts of wind go right by them in the house. Now, we're getting ready to go there. We should have been there last week, but because of that storm, Tony, our date at University of Wisconsin was rescheduled.
Right.
The flight to Milwaukee was canceled and had to be all rescheduled.
That was the storm that never was.
Yes. But everything was canceled, as everybody knows. I mean, the governor even wouldn't allow tractor trailers on the road. So, anyway, I had to call them to tell them. Ed and I, real quiet night, one evening, we're watching TV, the phone rings after 10 o'clock at night, and she is crying hysterically on the phone.
The lady of the house.
The lady of the house. I have no idea at all what can be wrong. I said, I can't mention her name. Ruth is her first name. I says, Ruth, is this you? She says, yes. Now, I'm going to backtrack to tell you what my last conversation with her had been. Maybe 3 or 4 days before this phone call that I received, she called me to say that she had pulled up to her home with 2 of the children in the car. The driveway was all full of relatives' cars, kids' cars, you know, were all in the driveway. So she parked on the vacant lot that's adjacent to their property, and this big black dog came up and was jumping against the window of the car. So she put her hand on the car horn and kept tooting and tooting and tooting until somebody in the house came out and scared the dog away. This is what she's telling me. They went
Now,
in.
that dog was never seen in the neighborhood before, right?
Never,
No.
never. And it's a very small kind of
Area.
private area, yes. And so her nephew was at the house, and he says, Aunt Ruth, you want me to take the garbage out? So he took the garbage out, and he says, hey, you know what? That black dog you were talking about, he's right there on the edge of the woods. Look it. So they looked, and the dog was there.
Shades of the Omen. Black dog.
Now,
We ran into
we ran
black
into-
dog similar to that on the Dartmoor Moors in England.
Yes, we
Really?
did. Yes,
Not-
we did.
Not a nice feeling.
And so now her and her husband are sitting having a cup of coffee, and they look out, and they can see that dog right out in the snow. In the morning, the husband goes out there. He says, how can a dog be there? He said, there's no footprints in the snow, the new snow. He said, there's no footprints. He said, how'd the dog get there?
I've seen animals like that, black animals, appear in our passageway at our home. One door is blocked off. There's no way to get through there unless you open the door. I come out of the museum and walk down the passageway, and I can see this animal, which looks sort of like a black woodchuck. And it's scurrying down, and I look again, it's gone. That's
Now-
what we're dealing with
Now, she said to me, there was one other thing, she said, that has happened that I should let you know about. She said, in our bedroom, we hear orchestra music. Sometimes it can really get on your nerves, she says, but it isn't bad music, she said, and you hear a man's voice singing. But there's nothing that it can be coming from at all.
here. That's similar to the magic whispering.
All right, that's what she tells me. This is 3 nights before now. Now she calls this night crying. And I wonder what is the matter. And she said, Lorraine, the house burnt to the ground.
Can you imagine?
Out of nowhere.
The new house burnt to the ground. We were coming there. This happened up in Old Lyme one time.
Yes?
A couple had bought an old house. They were renovating it. They were going to sell antiques out of it. They called us up the day before, very frightened, wanted Lorraine and I to come out there.
Right.
We drove up there the following day. It was just about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Numerous fire engines were blocking off the front of the road, and I thought, what the heck's going on here? So we asked, and they said, well, there's a house that burned down. I said to Lorraine, I bet you I know the house. Sure enough, it was that house.
same
It was
exact
that
house.
Burned down.
Now,
Now-
before you continue on that, Lorraine, if we can change this for a second. We've only got about 10 minutes left. I'd like to get Frank's input a little bit here, if I
Okay.
could.
Yeah, because he's been with us.
Frank went on a lot of cases with you.
Oh, yeah, he's
Frank
been
went to
tingling
England
with
and
us.
Scotland with you.
Yes?
Now, Frank, ladies and gentlemen, this is the gentleman, Frank, who wrote that song at the beginning of our show. Frank, you've been to Scotland with Ed and Lorraine and to England.
Yeah, great place.
Tell us about some of the maybe haunting things or intriguing or mystical things that you've noticed.
One of the things, I don't know if it's haunting, the Hill of the Angels, Scotland, beautiful spot.
Tell us about
That's
that.
beautiful.
It's just all alone in the mountains there, and there's sheep,
Yes.
and it's just a feeling you get when you're there.
that
What is it like?
Beautiful.
It's like a feeling of overwhelming.
It's a nice feeling. No, it's a great
Yes.
feeling. It's like I didn't feel anything bad there. It's just the most peaceful. You're connecting with history. Like you realize this little spot's been here for like hundreds of years, and you know who was there and everything. It's just a great feeling. You know,
It's a place that you'll always return to, right?
yeah.
Oh,
If I was
yeah.
going to Scotland, I go back
It was
there.
built by a warrior over 350 years ago.
A warrior.
As a penance, yes. He was a warlord, and he had massacred numerous people.
Now,
And so the Church of the Penance, he built 3 chapels like this in the Highlands of Scotland.
wasn't there a place in England too, a rectory or something that you?
Worley Rectory.
How'd you feel there?
That one was more of a, you get an eerie feeling in that place. I mean, you could feel something. And you know, you're walking through there and you go, something's weird here.
Oh,
Now,
yeah.
Frank, ladies and gentlemen, is a very logical type of an individual. He's skeptical to a point
Yeah.
because he's a police officer, has been for numerous years, also a songwriter, of course, but he doesn't go into things with an imagination. He's skeptical. So when you went into that Borley, you felt something different.
Yeah, I went in there, you know, no preconceived ideas. I just said, let me go in here and...
And you felt a little spooked in there?
Yeah,
or
you just get a sense of something's
something's different.
wrong here.
You're
you
not
know?
alone. You're not alone
Now-
there.
Plus, I wouldn't want to
You're-
stay.
You're a trained observer, right?
Yeah.
You've been schooled and trained to observe different types of phenomena, not ghostly, but things that occur in crimes and things. Do you think there's such things as ghosts in haunted houses?
Yeah, I do. I do.
Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, you know, people say, well, it's just your imagination or whatever, but I've seen evidence with the pictures you showed me and everything. There's definitely something going on. I would say, my opinion, you know,
Yes.
I believe in it.
I agree. There is something going on. There is life after death. That's what.
You've been in a few haunted places too,
I've been
Tony.
to some place. There's a place called Whitby Abbey that. Did Frank go to Whitby Abbey?
Yes?
Yeah,
he
I
went
would
there.
say.
That's
Yes.
a pretty eerie place
That's
too.
It's a very eerie place.
If you ever get a chance to go to England or Scotland, go to these places. You'll see what we mean. Whitby Abbey in Whitby, England. Borley Rectory, which is in
Right near Long
Melford.
Sudbury, Long Melford
Yes.
area, and the Isle of Skye, Dunvegan Castle, places like that. Go there, you won't be disappointed.
No, it's gorgeous.
Okay, getting back quickly, Lorraine, to the
Okay, Tony,
house in Wisconsin.
the fire marshal, the insurance adjuster, the family, the husband and wife went to the house. The only thing left there is this family room, this big extension. There went up. The rest of the house is burnt down. There's no floors left on the second floor, anything. They stood there, these people, and one of them said, I don't know, was the fire marshal or the insurance man said, there's a dog upstairs barking
Was
and
it black?
growling.
Was it black?
They can't, there's no dog
They
up
couldn't
there,
find the
Tony.
dog, huh?
There's no dog up
Here-
there.
here's the ironic part. They destroyed the house that these spirits inhabited. Now the spirits destroy the house that they are inhabiting. And we are going there to investigate.
When are you going to go?
We're going to be, well, we'll leave on April 1st.
Oh, boy.
Fool's Day.
April
Fool's
1st.
Day.
know.
Hey, St. Patrick's Day is coming up, and that's a pretty nice day, too.
That's a wonderful day.
So you're going to go there, you're going to take pictures, recordings, interview the people, and find out what the heck's
And
going
we're
on
going
there.
to be also with this priest.
Now, it may need, what, an exorcism or what?
Well, I know the ground, you know, I prayed on this, and this is what came to me. Now, remember, I have not been there, Tony. But what I'm going to suggest to these clergy is that the ground, if they are going to ever build on that ground, I don't know that they are, but even if they're not, that ground cannot be sold unless the ground is consecrated.
But the people are most necessarily going to have exorcisms over them because
Oh,
they
yeah.
have an aura of disaster on them. They are haunted people.
Haunted people. Not a
These-
haunted house,
this
but
has to
haunted
be
people.
taken off of them, yes.
Yes. So
Okay.
now the only one really hurt. It was really remarkable. The parents, the children, they were not home when this happened, but they had a little dog, a Chihuahua, and they had birds. The young boy, 15, I believe, went in on his stomach, and he saved all living things in the
Oh,
house.
that was-
Carried the little
That
chihuahuas
was
and the
good.
birds.
And the birds, but he's in the hospital for smoke inhalation problems.
Okay, so when you go, when you come back, we'll talk
Oh,
some more
yes.
about it. We want to hear what you decide about this house.
Yes,
And what you're going to do about this house, too.
right.
Would you like to give the P.O. Box address
Oh,
out?
yeah.
We forgot to do that
We
last
forgot
show.
to do that the last show, Tone, yeah. Yes, Ed and Lorraine Warren, Post Office Box 41, Monroe, Connecticut, 06468. What people are doing too, Tony, is sending email.
We'd like to thank
Email?
people in the area for their emails
Yes.
and for contacting us. And
Yes.
I think we've helped quite a few of them so far.
For all their support. Keep those cards and letters coming, ladies and gentlemen, as Perry Como would say. So for Frank, our special guest, Frank Chiaffari, for Lorraine Warren, for Ed Warren, for Charter, I'm Tony Spera. Have a nice night.